So in this video, we're going to continue looking at the revolt of 1857. So we're just talking about Mangal Pandey in the previous video, and we'll now continue looking at more causes of why the revolt of 1857 happened when it happened, right? So the third point that we have to look at is rumors of mixing of bone dust in atta. This led to widespread discontent and fury amongst the Brahmin Hindu sepoys, who constituted a majority of the sepoys in service of the British. As explained before, religious considerations trumped all others. The fourth point, discontent amongst zamindars, jagirdars, and others, that is, centralization of power, had taken place to such a great degree that the zamindars and jagirdars were feeling totally discontent and were rendered mere collectors of revenue that they had to entirely pass on to the British, leaving them with very little to maintain their lavish lifestyle. This is a major reason why the sepoys found such great support from zamindars and other landlords across the country who were the traditional leaders of the Indian society. The fifth point, heavy taxation of farmers. The new land revenue system introduced after the annexation and confiscation of lands attached to charitable institutions affected the well being of the sepoy. However, what was a great contributing factor was that the tax increase in Awadh hit the sepoys the hardest because a great number of soldiers came from rural Awadh, and any issue that stressed the farmer of Awadh stressed the sepoy. Under the burden of excessive taxes, the peasantry became progressively indebted and impoverished. The only interest of the company was the realization of maximum revenue. The revenue imposed was so great that the peasant could not afford to pay the taxes. Revenue was collected by coercion and torture. Records show that over 237,000 coercive collections were made during 1848 to 1856. 237,000. Whatever the adverse conditions, remissions were never granted. Talukdars found all their property being confiscated and were without a source of income, unable to work, and condemned to penury. Artisans and handicraftsmen suffered the most due to the annexation of lands of Talukdars, who were their main patrons. To add a blow to the already fallen, the British policy promoted imported British goods and discouraged Indian handicrafts. Hence, imposition of very high tax revenues was a great contributor to the dissatisfaction of the sepoy and of the common man with the British administration. The sepoy was in fact a peasant in uniform, whose consciousness was not divorced from that of the rural population. The sixth point, meager pay. A sepoy in the infantry got rupees 7 a month, and a savar, that is, a horseman in the cavalry, got rupees 27, out of which he had to pay for the upkeep of his mount, food, uniform, etc. He was ultimately left with a rupee or two. The sense of deprivation struck a chord every time he was compared to his British counterpart. A British observer wrote, though he might show the signs of the military genius of Hyder, he knew that he could never attain the pay of an English subaltern, and that the rank to which he might rise after 30 years of faithful service would not protect him from the insolent dictation of an ensign fresh from England. Within a month of capture of Delhi, the revolt spread to different parts of the country. Some of the important centers were Kanpur, Lucknow, Banaras, Jhansi, Jagdishpur, Allahabad, and Bareilly. At Kanpur, it was Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib was the adopted son of Peshwa Baji Rao II, and he was the natural choice during the revolt. He had refused the family title and he was banished from Pune. He was now living in Kanpur. At Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal took over the reins, where popular sympathy was overwhelmingly in favor of the Nawab. Her son Birjis Qadir was now proclaimed as the Nawab. At Bareilly, Khan Bahadur, a descendant of the former ruler of Rohilkhand, was placed in command. He was living on a pension meted out to him by the British and, in fact, informed the British army of the arrival of the Sipais. Yet, once the revolt broke out, he assumed command, organized an army of 40,000 soldiers, and offered stiff resistance to the British. In Jagdishpur, Bihar, the revolt was led by Kunwar Singh, a 70-year-old zamindar on the verge of bankruptcy and someone who nursed a grudge against the British. He readily took the opportunity to fight the British. Yet, the most outstanding leader of the revolt was the legendary Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, a woman who fought with bravery that had no parallel on the day of the battle. Dalhousie, the Governor General, had refused to allow her adopted son to succeed at Jhansi after the king had died. Dalhousie annexed the state by the application of doctrine of lapse. The Rani had tried everything to reverse the decision. It is also said that she even offered to keep Jhansi safe for the British, although there is some dispute in this regard. Paintings depicting Lakshmi Bai in battle with her son tied to her and across her chest with a rearing horse are scenes that are entrenched in the collective memory of the nation. Lakshmi Bai continues to be an inspiration even today. Yet, in spite of all of these local leaders, what the revolt necessarily missed was the emergence of one single leader of ability who could unite them all and harness their combined power. Had one leader of ability risen at this crucial juncture of Indian history, India would have been independent 90 years before it actually managed to become one. The absence of centralized coordination resulted in the heroic efforts being rendered random. The result was that all of these revolts were quelled, and most of the times it was done with ease. Another reason that the revolt did not do as well as it should have was that it lacked support from the upper Indian society. Merchants, intelligentsia, and Indian rulers not only kept aloof of the revolt but actively supported the British. The revolt of 1857 was not a purely historical tragedy. Even in failure, it served a grand purpose, a source of inspiration for national liberation movement which later achieved what the revolt of 1857 had hoped to. Thank you.